let me teach you guys a little something real quick. This is a warning for anyone who does these fuel saver technologies that do work, whether they do work or not. Let me give you a warning. I'm going to read off of the copy paste text of the from the legal codes themselves that I actually have. The text file also has the references themselves as well. All right, let's get on with it. The federal tampering prohibition is contained in Section 203, subsection A3 of the Clean Air Act, 42 U.S.C. 7522, subsection A3. I got this shit. Section 203, subsection A3, subsection A of the Act prohibits any person from removing or rendering inoperative any emission control device or element of design installed in or on a motor vehicle or motor vehicle engine prior to its sale and delivery to an ultimate purchaser. That means a customer or buyer, the actual buyer, that where it finally ends up at. Or it prohibits, makes illegal, any person from knowingly removing or rendering inoperative any such device or element of design after such sale or delivery. That means a person that buys this son of a bitch, finally buys it, cannot do this either. And the causing thereof. That means causing of bypassing and rendering inoperative, unable to work, or removing or defeating, or using anything that causes that. You can't do that either. The maximum civil penalty for a violation of this section by a manufacturer or dealer, that means someone who produces the type of tech, or the sellers of the tech, or both, or someone in a company that does both, is $25,000 for any other person. That means for any single individual that's trying to do this, or install this shit, or sell it, will be $2,500 per individual, per person. Section 203, subsection A3, subsection B of the Act prohibits any person from manufacturing or selling or offering to sell or to install any part or component intended for use with or as part of any motor vehicle or motor vehicle engine, where the principal effect of the part or component is to bypass, defeat, or render inoperative any device or element of design installed on or in a motor vehicle or motor vehicle engine, where the person knows or should know that such a part or component is being offered for sale or is being put in for such, installed for such use. Maximum civil penalty for violation of this by an individual will be $2,500. What does all this mean simplified? Well, I'll blatantly tell you. What this means: you cannot mess with the emissions equipment. You cannot sell a device offering or offer to sell or put in or offer to put in a device that can either requires you to remove or render not working any of the emission control systems or any of their parts. You also cannot bypass or defeat them either. But you're going to have to be able to make the double-edged sword signal, the computer system signaling of the emissions equipment to the computer, the car's computers, from fucking up any potential for mileage gains if you're going to use fuel saver tech in your vehicle. You might ask, how the fuck am I going to do that? Well, fortunately, there are only two mod systems that you put in. They're not fuel savers themselves, but what they do, I'll explain each one at a time. Let me quote a crucial element. The Act prohibits any person from removing or rendering inoperative any emission control device or element of design. It also on or in a motor vehicle or motor vehicle engine prior to its sale and delivery. It prohibits any person from knowingly removing or rendering inoperative such a device or element of design for such sale and delivery causing thereof. And another crucial element is the Act prohibits any person from manufacturing or selling or offering to sell or installing any part or component intended for use with or as part of any motor vehicle or motor vehicle engine where a principal effect of part of the component or component itself is to bypass, defeat, or render inoperative any device or element designed installed in on a motor vehicle engine. This is relating to the emissions equipment or any of their parts. So, what? Well. It means you can't fuck with the antennae without getting in trouble. Emissions equipment or any of the parts involved. If you're trying to bypass, defeat, render unable to work, or removing them. So you can't do any of that. You cannot bypass, you cannot defeat, you cannot render unable to work, and you cannot remove any of the emissions equipment parts. Fortunately, there is a plus side of this. There's only 2 mods that can allow you that can adjust the computer signaling without doing any of this, without doing any of these 4 conditions. First one is the electronic fuel injection enhancer device. All you got to do is wire it to the oxygen sensors, each one to an oxygen sensor, pre and post catalytic converter most likely. So it'll allow a signal adjustment to allow the system to continue working within its normal ranges while you use fuel saving and mileage and power enhancing engine modifications to do that. So it'll operate like normal and actually can potentially allow your fuel saver systems to work with the emissions equipment. We'll get into that later. Say you want to install a plasma ignition, or say you want to do fuel preheating, let alone putting the two together. That's going to increase the oxygen sensor, the oxygen content in the tailpipe before and after the catalytic converter, and lower the amount of different corrosive gases and hydrocarbon gases, solvent fumes, and solvent, aromatic hydrocarbons tend to have solvent properties for most. If they're liquefied, there's fumes of that in the, bad burning of gas, and as well as diesel. You're lowering that, and that raises oxygen content. If you're lowering carbon monoxide, that raises the oxygen content. If you're lowering carbon itself and soot and particulate matter, you're going to increase the oxygen content in your tailpipe. That's going to give the computer, due to the oxygen sensor feedback with the computer, that's going to get a false signal feedback of, oh shit, it's running too lean, we're going to overheat and destroy it, get destroyed. Throw more fuel in. That's going to that's a protection mechanism in the program, but you're giving it a false signal. It's going to do that. So you're fucked on getting any fuel saving benefits, because of this effect. It's a safety measure that works, but it's dual-edged. And anytime you improve your burning of your fuel or lower pollution, you're going to raise oxygen. That's going to trick the sensor and give it a false flag signal. To, oh fuck, we're going to overheat and be self-destruct if we don't put more fuel in. It's going to give that false signal. So the electronic fuel injection enhancer stops that. Without bypassing, defeating, rendering inoperative, or making you need to remove the sensors. Doesn't do any of that. Stops you from having to do that. Allows the systems to operate as normal while having these fuel saver devices on. The next one is the MAP or MAF Sensor Enhancer Circuitry. They do not violate this. They do not bypass, remove, defeat, or render unable to work any of the emissions equipment either. What they do is they will maintain a regular signaling for the airflow and air pressure at the intake, so they stay the same in spite of the fuel saving and hypermiling power modding done to the engine. So they'll work as normal while you gain benefits. So it won't restrict airflow or alter it, and throwing away any mileage gains you could have. Now, Let me give you some here. Let me give you some other suggestions from a scientific and basic logical standpoint here. You could actually argue that not only does it not remove or render inoperative, bypass, defeat, or render inoperable, but the EFIE gives you a aftermarket function of your fuel injection system, which can be potentially under the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. MAF and MAP Sensor Enhancer also helps allow the combustion to be better. If your initial combustion is cleaner in your engine, the catalytic converter could potentially last longer without having as much particle soot and all these other crazy things to burn and lose the dust, the coating of platinum, palladium, and rhodium in them son of a bitches. Not as nearly as quickly. The oxygen sensors won't be easily as clogged with carbon, and they won't have as many corrosive elements in the exhaust gas either if they're not bottomed out. And so they won't be as corroded as easy, and you won't have to take them out and clean them as easy. Speaking of which, go check out ratchets and wrenches in the video how to clean oxygen sensors. And subscribe to that channel too. Great mechanic. So you're lessening the need to maintain these things, and they're potentially extending. Again, you can argue you are potentially extending the useful lives of these components in the exhaust emission control systems. You could argue you're helping them. You're doing the opposite of defeating, rendering, and unable to work, bypassing, or removing. You're doing the polar opposite. You're allowing them to last longer potentially because they don't have as much shit. They don't have as much shit to scrub, so they can scrub up emissions and clean up exhaust leftovers longer. If you're going to do this stuff, you're going to use these two mods and then do fuel preheating and other kind of stuff. You're going to drop your temperatures in your exhaust because of better combustion and the right timing too. So may I suggest thermal wrapping the fuck out of the exhaust going to the catalytic converter. And if you're going to use a turbocharger, get a turbo blanket. And part of the exhaust can be wrapped, going to the turbo can be thermally wrapped too, at the very least halfway. So you contain all that heat and get most use out of it. And the catalytic converter will stay hot enough to do its work in spite of the initial combustion and temperature drop because all that heat's being kept in there. May I please suggest that? And yeah. This can be reasonably, logically, and scientifically argued. It's just, combustion's cleaner. There's less bullshit coming out of the exhaust port. Less bullshit for the sensors to deal with. Less bullshit for the catalytic converters to deal with. So they could potentially last longer. Very simple. Very logical. That's the total opposite of doing any of these code violations. And they couldn't be subject to the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, potentially. Just like all the aftermarket fuel-saving tech I'm going to talk about in the future. Thank you for watching, and please watch this all the way through and listen to what I'm saying and think about it after this video ends. Thank you, and I love all of you. See you later. Reminder, the EFIE and MAF or MAP Sensor Enhancer Circuits. These two devices are not cheat devices or defeat devices. By their very nature, they are not. They are meant to be able to keep the emissions control systems running like normal while you lessen the pollution coming out of the exhaust manifold so the catalytic converters don't have as much shit to scrub out. And so on and so forth. And due to the cleaner exhaust pre-catalytic converter and post-catalytic converter, you could argue that the oxygen sensors won't have to be hit with as much corrosive shit. And you can also argue that can make them last longer. And they won't have as much carbon to be clogged with from time to time. So you're lessening the maintenance needed to keep these fuckers going. And I'm showing you these are the only two mods that can do this and allow you to install fuel-saving, power-boosting, mileage-improving, emissions-lowering devices that actually can and do fucking work on engines. And a lot of these have gotten third-party testing, like the Hyco 2DT's got third-party testing through fucking Caterpillar and Perkins, for fuck's sakes. That's just one of them. Plasma ignition, there's SAE papers on fucking plasma ignition testing on engines. Out the ass. This shit's proven to work. I am teaching you about how to do this shit without getting into a scandal like Volkswagen recently got into like last year or so on. By putting a defeat device software cheat in their fucking Volkswagen cars to lie to the public about less pollution. That is why I did this warning for fuel savers video. So you can know how to do this shit without being a fucking, without cheating. And it gives you a little bit nicer breathability in the air. That's nice. That's fucking nice. I think we want that. Anyways, take care everyone. Thank you for watching.